Hello. I think we're slowly going to start to have some participants join. Yeah, I can see that number popping up now. Excuse me while I waffle for a bit. What I want to do, it takes a little while for you all to pop into the room. We want to start something profound and people still sort of be rolling into the room. I'm very pleased to say that this is my last online activity before I get to see people face to face at our first trade show for a couple of years. So I'm hoping that to see some of you there on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday over next week. Not that I don't think these seminars have been absolutely fantastic, and we've got a cracking one for you today to read through. So I'm just going to let that number settle for a little bit. And then I'll just go through a bit of housekeeping, but I suspect that we're all a little bit old school veterans at this webinar platform at the moment. So we are actually on Zoom webinar. So you'll only see the speaker's video, but there are two different ways that you can interact with this. There's the chat function, which of course, if you've been to an ABTT seminar before, Alicia mans that expertly, so she'll be there giving you lots of information, so you can have a little look at the dialogue that Alicia and the information and links and stuff in there, and I'll talk to you about how you can save that if there's any information in there at the end of the seminar. But do say hello, let us know where you're from, and feel free to chat away and give us your opinions and stuff. What I would say though is if you do have something sort of profound that you A, want to say, or B, you want to ask, because this is a really interesting subject matter, pop it in the Q&A box, because that's the box where we'll be ciphering through the chat and getting more down to the nitty-gritty of questions. And after the presentation, which is a really interesting presentation, there will be time for questions, and I'm really interested to know what you guys have got to say on that, and I've probably got a ton of my own questions to ask as well. So hopefully you know a little bit about this platform. We're already in presentation view, so depending on what view you've got at the top, gallery view or presentation view, gallery view is really good for when we do the Q&A section. That way you see everybody together, but actually during a presentation it's probably quite useful to go standard or side by side or speaker view, but that's completely up to you. Don't be alarmed when Ian stops sharing his presentation. We'll all rejiggle and reassemble ourselves. But it's really good presentation. Don't be alarmed, there's lots of I've had a sneaky peek of it, there's lots of diagrams and stuff, but don't you worry, Ian is here to demystify this for us and make this simple. This is also recorded as well, so if you're anything like me, I sometimes have to watch something back to get it properly, so don't worry about it. It will be probably up on the Tyrell website, and it will also be up on the ABTT website with all our seminar resources for you. Okay, so we've had a few more people pop in, which is great. Let me just explain who's here, because it's always really annoying when you've got like a bunch of people and you don't know who everyone is. If you don't know who I am, my name is Mig. I am a lighting tutor at the Guildford School of Acting, but I'm also a trustee of the ABTT, elected trustee, and I do obviously work alongside the ABTT. Very honoured to be an elected trustee. And then you also have Alicia. Alicia is my right-hand girl for these seminars, and I'm not sure if her video is on actually. Is she saying hello? Yes, she is. Hello. She may just hide in the background, but she's doing glorious work on the chat, and she'll be giving you lots and lots of information. Much the same, you probably won't hear much from Dan. Dan works at Tyrell, but actually he'll be taking more of a backstage role in this, and he's done a lot of organising work, and he's here from Tyrell. And then you have John. John's here from Clearcom, and actually you won't hear much from John at the start, but actually in the Q&A section he's here to really help us dissect and get into the Q&A and answer any questions that you've got about comms. And the main man of the hour is Ian. So Ian works for Tyrell, and he has put together the most fabulous presentation for you about comms. Comms is just one of those things, isn't it, that we massively take for granted. Comms is the backbone of a show, isn't it? And actually, I look back as I was preparing for this presentation, and I just thought, as a teacher, I do take this for granted somewhat, this comm system. And as I've been a chief electrician in my career for for 9 or 10 years. And actually, this presentation would have been dead useful probably in my career about 15 years ago, I would say. So it's a really, really good resource, and I hope that you don't be shy about asking questions. There's going to be a lot of information in here. There's going to be a lot of diagrams. It's totally cool if you don't get it. And it's absolutely fine for you to ask questions. And that's what I will certainly be doing that. So I will ask questions, and if you guys have got questions, we can butt in and we can ask questions, and that's what it's here. We're here to demystify it a little bit. So, but don't worry, there will be a Q&A section at the end. So I'm going to shut up and we're going to get started. Keep your questions, pop them in the Q&A tab, and I'm going to hand over to Ian. Ian, all yours.
Well, thanks for that introduction, Migs. That was fantastic. Thank you very much. Hi all, thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. Today, like Meg said, sophisticated intercom systems have become so common that much of the modern technology available is taken for granted. So in this webinar, we intend to explore the intercom technology used within the theatre market. We'll look at how the older technologies are currently being used and how you can simplify and improve efficiency and cut costs by utilizing modern network technology. We'll also explore the new additions to the Clearcom product portfolio, namely the FreeSpeak Edge base station and the Arcadia central station. And we'll look at how these scalable next generation IP platforms will be influencing future theatre intercom installations moving forward. There we go. And here's a look at our agenda. So first, an introduction into who we are. Then we'll look at our current technology, communication methods, both old and new, and their features thereof. Next, we'll look at the current communication technologies and how they are being utilized within theaters. And then finally, we'll delve into a short overview of both the FreeSpeak Edge and Arcadia, followed up by any questions you may have. So an introduction, well, I don't think Clearcom needs much of an introduction, as the brand has had a lengthy history with theatre and has played a major role in communications within the intercoms industry. They were the first to market with portable wired and wireless intercom systems for live performances. And since then, their history of technological advancements and innovation has delivered significant improvements in the way people collaborate in any professional setting where real-time communication is required. Clearcom is also a proud supporter of the ABTT and have been members since 2016. And who is Tyrrell? You know, who are the people that I work for? Well, we are the official UK and Irish distributor for Clearcom and have been for over 11 years, servicing both broadcast and theatre markets. We are over 20 years old, and we provide turnkey solutions for creation, well, for the creation, manipulation, management, and the delivery of content to the broadcast and live events markets. And who am I? Well, I'm a professional sound engineer by trade, who has worked in post-production and who has worked in the post-production and broadcast industry for over 20 years. I diversified into sales, and since then have managed several audio brands, most notably Avid Audio, RME, RTW, Tascam, and Sonifex for the South African region. I'm now a sales account manager for Tyrrell CCT, and I focus mainly on managing our reseller Clearcom network in the UK and Irish theatre markets. And we also have a special guest here. He is here to help us with any questions after the webinar. He is John Sparrow, a senior systems consultant for both the Clearcom and Trilogy brands, and he provides both support and training for the Clearcom EMEA team and Clearcom partners. So with that out the way, let's look at common communication methods. In order to understand where we are going, we need to understand where we have come from. Over the next few slides, I'm going to discuss some common communication methods, as it helps us understand why some technologies still bear significant relevance in current productions. First, we move on to simplex communication. This is audio that travels in one direction only. Then there's half duplex communication. This is audio that travels in both directions, but you can only transmit in one direction at a time. So this is basically the way two-way radios work. And then full duplex communication. This is audio that travels in both directions at the same time. This is what we use daily when we use our mobile phones. Next, we look at Partyline communication. Now, the name Partyline came from the original telephone systems where more than one subscriber shared the same line and could hear and join all conversations at once. Clearcom as a company name was synonymous with its analog Partyline systems for most of its 50-year history. In fact, Partyline has played a big role in Clearcom's success, where their first intercom system was a Partyline system, and then later in 2010, Clearcom brought to market the very first digital network Partyline system called HelixNet. Partyline is always full duplex and is non-private. And while we are talking about methods of communication, I need to mention two more, namely point-to-point. This is a direct audio connection between one point to another and is completely non-private, well, completely private, and fixed groups or point to multi-point. This is where point A can address a group of points all at once, but still be able to communicate privately with each point as well. So with that out the way, let's look at the communication technologies that support these communication methods and how they fit into current theatre workflows. So we start with TwoWire. TwoWire is almost synonymous with Partyline. However, TwoWire is just a supporting technology. It is also the most used intercoms technology in the theatre industry today. TwoWire is a communication system where there are two wires but one path, and typically it uses 3-pin XLRs and standard mic cable for transmission. From the 1970s until the mid-1990s, two-wire Partyline type systems were incredibly popular, primarily due to the technology that was available at the time. And there are two main variants to this technology. You have Clearcom Standard, where two-wire have separate lines for power, audio, and ground conductors, and have a single channel available for duplex Partyline style communication. And you have RTS, where two-wire has a conductor with power and audio, a conductor with just audio, and a separate ground. So they are able to get two channels of duplex Partyline communications. However, quality is sacrificed as a result. It should be noted that both standards can be accommodated on all Clearcom equipment. So what are the features and or benefits? Well, it's cost effective and simple to roll out, mainly because it relies on standard mic cable for transmission. It allows for full duplex communication, meaning there's a constant communication in both directions. And because it uses the Partyline communication method, it's a great group communication tool, even though it is non-private. So what is a typical two-wire workflow in theatre? Well, as you can see here, two-wire architecture is pretty straightforward and relies on daisy chaining and splitters for distribution. As mentioned before, this is all done via XLRs and standard mic cable, and it's a testament as to why two-wire is still so incredibly popular. The Encore system that you see here can cater for up to 4 independent ring Partyline channels. However, in this diagram, we are using a Clearcom MS702, which enables 2 channels only. So in this case, what you're seeing right now, directors issue cues to staff via the 2 main stations, and talent is alerted via speaker stations, as you can see there, via speaker stations or cue lights. And depending on the headsets used, staff can be wired to either one or both channels A and B. And as an extension to two-wire, it would be remiss of me not to mention HelixNet. In 2010, Clearcom brought to market the first digital network Partyline system called HelixNet. 2 of the main goals associated with the development of HelixNet was to make it familiar and make it usable with clients' current two-wire cabling infrastructure, so XLRs and standard mic cable. However, its core technology is an IP platform that allows for multiple audio channels and PoE that can be run on any standard IT network. So HelixNet retains the familiarity and ease of use of Partyline, but due to it being digital, also gains digital audio quality and more advanced communication methods such as point-to-point and point-to-group. So what are the features? Well, it keeps that Partyline style of communication, so it retains that familiarity. It's also infrastructure agnostic. It uses standard XLR audio cabling and Ethernet networks for transmission, which reduces costs, cabling costs dramatically. and it allows for flexible interfacing. The HelixNet main station can connect to a wide variety of interfaces, both old and new. While we could use the last workflow drawing and simply replace the Encore system with a HelixNet system, due to it being digital, it's capable of far more. So in this drawing, we look at a HelixNet and FreeSpeak 2 solution for a performance center. These performance centers typically have multiple theaters, multiple dressing rooms, a carpentry area, and additional box office and administrative spaces. So to start, we use FourWire, which you can see at the bottom here. We use a FourWire Cat5 connection from the FreeSpeak 2, which enables up to 4 channels of full duplex audio. This allows for stationary staff on wired belt packs to communicate directly with mobile staff on wireless belt packs. Next, we use Cat5 for the FreeSpeak E1 roaming network. So mobile staff on wireless belt packs have a far greater signal area in which to roam. I have also added a TW47 in order to facilitate two-way radio via a TwoWire connection. And finally, this is the Helix network. A set of off-the-shelf network switches allow the technical team to easily position main stations, belt packs, and speaker panels wherever they like. So this solution uses conventional IP networks for transmission, employing easily available and cost-effective network hardware for transmission. However, this could have easily been done using standard mic cable. This solution is a synergy of TwoWire, FourWire, Partyline, and wireless, allowing for multiple methods of communication via Partyline, point-to-point, point-to-group, or two-way radio. Now moving on to FourWire, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's more common in the broadcast industry. FourWire started gaining more prominence in the mid-90s due to the technology supporting it getting cheaper and smaller. And along with TwoWire, FourWire is included with most Clearcom products as standard. The FourWire circuit gets its name from the fact that it uses 4 conductors to create 2 complete electrical circuits, one for each direction. The 2 separate circuits allow for full duplex operation with very low crosstalk. So what are the features? Well, FourWire is a standard balanced or unbalanced analog audio and typically uses standard off-the-shelf Cat5 cables for transmission. And due to the signal being a standard analog signal, it's easy to interface with other systems such as audio consoles and speakers. It also supports full duplex point-to-point. With that, we move to wireless. So while wired intercom systems are still the central systems used for production intercom today, many workflows require a few users to be untethered and mobile throughout the production areas. Modern wireless systems can seamlessly attach to existing hardwired intercom systems and offer a distinct advantage over traditional two-way radios in that they offer a truly untethered hands-free operation. And due to the demands of modern production, full duplex operation is an absolute necessity for stage managers, lighting, and audio engineers. However, unlike wireless microphones that operate only in one direction, wireless intercoms have a more specific frequency spectrum requirement because of the relationship between transmitter and receiver. Each intercom must have at least one system transmitter frequency that broadcasts to all the backpacks, and one receiver frequency for each individual belt pack. So for a 4 belt pack system, that means you must have a minimum total of at least 5 frequencies available. These specific frequency requirements have created their own evolution, and it's something that I'll discuss on the next slide. But what are the features? Well, it's obviously no cables, which speak for itself. Wireless offers a truly untethered hands-free operation, which is an absolute necessity for some staff. It can be cost effective. Pulling wire is an extremely labor intensive process, and it can be the most expensive part of an installation. And it's portable, which makes wireless comms the obvious choice for rental companies and traveling shows. So a bit about the history. For many years, Clearcom's wireless intercom portfolio was composed of a number of OEM provided solutions. But the breakthrough in wireless innovation was with the first FreeSpeak DECT system. Digital European Cordless Telecommunications, or DECT, is a standard primarily used for creating cordless telephone systems. It originated in Europe, where it is the universal standard, and operates in a frequency band of 1880 to 1900 megahertz, or more commonly known as 1.9 gig. The next innovation was the use of FHSS, or frequency hopping spread spectrum. This is a technique that uses a narrow band signal and hops frequencies every 5 milliseconds, and allowed systems to burn through RF noise and interference that could otherwise be a significant problem. Both these technologies were used with much success in the original FreeSpeak 1.9 range. However, a worldwide license frequency was required to ensure compatibility around the world. 2.4 was the obvious choice, as it allowed users to operate with no license requirements, and it's specifically designated for transmitting and receiving voice communications. Clearcom currently uses frequency with their FreeSpeak 2 systems, and it's a popular frequency choice. However, there is one caveat. It's a very congested frequency spectrum. It's the same frequency spectrum commonly used by Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, baby monitors, RF remotes, and microwave ovens, which means that interference is a possibility. The next frequency band available after 2.4 gigahertz is 5 gigahertz, and this will be the new wave moving forward. 5 gigahertz provides a faster, more directional coverage. However, its coverage is not as wide or as far as the lower frequency spectrums. Faster transmission speeds translate into more channels with better audio at lower latencies, but 5 gigahertz cannot penetrate solid objects such as walls and floors. On the plus side, 5 gigahertz also tends to have less overcrowding than the 2.4 gigahertz band, simply because fewer devices use it, and because it has 23 channels available for devices to use, while the 2.4 gigahertz band only has 11. So obviously, wireless systems have proven to be so incredibly useful that everybody understandably wants to have one. And the issue now is that there's a multitude of users, all of which can lead to a fog of wireless activity. This is a situation that needs to be proactively managed, and it is only possible through the use of proper frequency coordination. By allocating dedicated channels for each aspect of the production, interference can virtually be eliminated. However, this is not a one frequency suits all situation, and every environment needs to be catered for depending on the shape, surface, and amount of users needed. So first we're going to look at the plus points here. So first we look at available non-overlapping channels. Now, without getting too deep on how wireless communication works, when a station has something to transmit, it must wait for a channel to be clear. Non-overlapping channels are the amount of clear channels available for each spectrum. As you can see, the 1.9 and 5 gigahertz offer more available frequencies, while more available channels than 2.4 gigahertz, which suffers mostly due to the fact that most mobile phones and Wi-Fi routers operate in the spectrum. Next, we have total available spectrum. This is closely linked to non-overlapping channels, and it's how much data is available per channel. 5 gigahertz has far more bandwidth available than either 1.9 or 2.4. And this increase in data not only translates into more channels, but it also a higher quality audio with lower latencies. Next, we look at the outdoor and indoor range. The lower frequency spectrums show their strength here, both outperforming 5 gigahertz. The lower frequencies are also better at penetrating non-solid surfaces, such as wood and drywalling, so will work better in these kind of environments. And we look at multipath and reflection. Now, multipath is reflections or are reflections that can occur in challenging environments like stadiums, crowded urban spaces, and domed ceilings. Digital wireless intercom using 1.9 and 2.4 gigahertz spectrums can suffer a great deal from this kind of interference. However, with 5 gigahertz, those challenges become opportunities. Reflections or the multipathing they create can actually be used in favor of better transmission. And finally, interference by other devices. We discussed this a little bit earlier, but interference by other devices can happen, most notably in the 2.4 gigahertz frequency spectrum. However, due to the fact that the 5 gigahertz frequency spectrum allows for more channels, there's far more room for non-overlapping channels. This makes it easier to find free channels in the spectrum. So as you can see, there's no perfect frequency spectrum. Where 1.9 or 2.4 frequencies may struggle, 5 gigahertz tends to excel. And the exact opposite is true for 1.9 and 2.4. And this is why the new Edge and Arcadia editions feature systems that can incorporate all these frequency spectrums. This helps users to proactively manage that fog of wireless activity. Now, let's take a look at some of the wireless workflows. So if we go back to our Encore Theatre solution, and I included a DX410 wireless main station. This allows staff to be mobile and move to positions anywhere within the main theatre. The DX410 operates in the 2.4 gigahertz frequency spectrum and features both high definition 7 kilohertz audio and FHSS to avoid interference with Wi-Fi. The DX410 is a single point RF system. So while you can connect up to 15 registered wireless belt packs with a range of up to 1,000 feet, you cannot extend the system any further than that. Now let's take a look at the FreeSpeak roaming system. FreeSpeak was the first system of its kind capable of supporting a high number of simultaneous wireless full duplex users in a license-free multi-area configuration. Now, to break that down, FreeSpeak 2 can handle up to 25 full duplex users in a roaming network operating in both the 1.9 and 2.4 gigahertz frequency spectrums. By placing transceivers at multiple locations, we can create a wide roaming network, allowing the users to roam in between the individual transceiver coverage areas. Transceivers can be positioned up to 3,000 feet away from the base station using either Cat5 or fiber, and each transceiver can create a coverage zone of up to 500 feet indoors. And while we are here, the FreeSpeak 2 can also offers TwoWire compatibility, meaning that for less complicated runs, standard mic cable can still be used for those TwoWire Partyline systems or to incorporate older TwoWire installations. And if you would like to connect to balanced or unbalanced hardware, that can be done via FourWire and Cat5. And finally, with the addition of the TW47, any TwoWire channel can be used to create a two-way radio network. The FreeSpeak 2 is very popular with theatre installations, as it allows for complete hands-free operation, access to multiple methods of communication, as well as compatibility with older technologies. Okay, audio over IP. So in order to discuss audio over IP, we need to take a short history lesson in digital audio signal routing. Since the early 1980s, complex audio signal routing has most often been realized with the help of time division multiplexing, or TDM. This is a method of transmitting and receiving independent digital signals through a single cable that could carry more than one channel. By using this technique, the audio signal is divided into many segments of short duration, which are then later reassembled at the receiving end. The broadcast industry first adopted AS3 and then later MADI in order to transport these signals. As the need grew for more audio channels, so did the need for digital audio routers that could handle a larger capacity of digital signals. But TDM connections are not very efficient, so a new solution was needed, and it was found. By turning those signals into packets and sending multiple packets through the same cable, the capacity of that cable quickly rose to thousands of channels, and so audio over IP was born. But what makes this so special? Well, Audio over IP leverages on computer IP networks and technology which fundamentally changes the ways in which audio systems can connect, expand, and deliver. It essentially democratizes audio architecture, meaning that we can now send any audio anywhere with incredible ease. And due to the fact that most ARP brands use conventional off-the-shelf network switches and cabling, this can lead to some incredibly flexible yet cost-effective workflow solutions, where there's a need to distribute multiple audio signals over complex networks. So what are the benefits? Well, with the ability to use any IP network, we can basically send audio anywhere in the world. And currently, there is a large adoption rate with many professional brands supporting many ARP protocols, meaning that interfacing devices just got a whole lot easier. And due to the networking nature of the technology, there are a myriad of matrixing options available, which can lead to very complex yet flexible workflows. And lastly, it's cost effective. You can use either an existing network infrastructure to route your audio or purchase standard off-the-shelf networking equipment to create your own network. So the first ARP product from Clearcom that I find particularly exciting is the LQ series. This unit basically converts any audio signal into IP. So any computer network, be it LAN, WAN, Wi-Fi, or public internet, can now be used as part of your intercom solution. These units allow you to extend TwoWire, FourWire, or GPI signals. They also allow you to connect multiple intercom networks together, be it on the same site or on other sides of the planet. Or you could use a unit to connect a staff member remotely. So what are the features? Well, all connections are virtual, which means cable runs are greatly simplified. LQs also allow you to expand your comms network easily just by adding devices at your desired access points. And it's platform agnostic, meaning that you can link with any brand of intercom or audio device via TwoWire, FourWire, GPI, or IP. The second product is actually two, and they are Agent RC and Agent RC respectively. Agent RC is an iOS Android mobile application that enables any user to connect a mobile device to a traditional intercom system using either 3G, 4G, LTE, or Wi-Fi networks. Agent RC is similarly a desktop version for Windows and OS X. Both facilitate a scalable intercom user station that's easily configurable using the Clearcom Manager interface, or CCM. Simply put, any mobile device or computer can now be added as a user station to your intercom network. So what are the features? Well, both Station RC and Agent RC allow you to connect users to your intercom system via 3G, 4G, LTE, Wi-Fi, or wired networks. This allows users to connect remotely wherever they may be in the world. And by using standard mobile devices and computers, for your user stations, well, for your user connection devices, you can significantly lower the cost of any production. These are also very scalable solutions using flexible subscription plans. So your network can scale up and down depending on the size of your production. But how does this all work in a theater? Well, let's use an LQ unit for our solution. As with the previous solutions, TwoWire and FourWire are still catered for. So updating older networks or current installations with newer technology is entirely possible. So there's no need to gut an older working solution to add a new one. To expand the system, we just need to add a standard off-the-shelf network switch. Now we can add Station RC. Now we can add a Station RC virtual client on 2 laptops. These will be the direct-to-user stations. This provides the directors with access to all methods of communication, all of which are completely customizable via the CCM. And by adding Wi-Fi, staff can now use any iOS or Android-based device for communication wirelessly. And the users are not limited to just the Wi-Fi network either. They can be based anywhere around the world. So long as they are using Agent RC, they can connect to the system. And as with the previous solution, by adding a TW47, any 2-wire channel can be used to create a two-way radio network. So this solution highlights how by using modern network technology, we can upgrade and create an incredibly cost-effective and flexible solution with very little effort. In this diagram, we effectively are integrating the oldest technology with the newest, which is something I've always come to love about Clearcom. And now we move on to the new products. Clearcom are typically measured when releasing new products. However, when they do, the releases are well received and inevitably become staples in their respective environments. With that said, Clearcom have announced 2 new products over the last few months. We have the FreeSpeak Edge base station and the Arcadia Central Station. The Edge base station adds to the already popular FreeSpeak range, while the Arcadia creates a new position for itself in the Clearcom lineup. As you can see, they are very similar in look and feel, but differ in abilities, which I'll be discussing in the following slides. So what are the features of these 2 units? Well, for the first time, the new Edge base and Arcadia Central Station are bringing together all the members of the FreeSpeak family. So 1.9, 2.4, 5 gigahertz, E1 and IP all on the same box. And Dante is also included. Both units have a complement of 20 inputs and outputs and are configured via the new and improved Clearcom Configuration Manager, or CCM. The main differences between the 2 units is that the Arcadia Central Station is upgradable. You can scale up to 96 licensable ports. And while both units support 2-wire and 4-wire, for the first time, HelixNet integration is possible with Arcadia. This will only be an option though in 2022. This means that you will now be able to link FreeSpeak to HelixNet intelligently. Up until now, this point was the only real way to do this was via 4-way. Looking again at the Edge base station, the maximum belt pack capacity. Need a bit of water. The maximum belt pack capacity is 16, and that can be a mixture of all the different flavors of FreeSpeak. So that includes 1.9, 2.4, 5 gigahertz, E1 and IP. You can add up to 6 IP transceivers, and this will be really the Edge transceivers, and up to 10 FreeSpeak E1 transceivers. Both units have P2P clock installed to keep digital sync precise. And as I mentioned, Dante is now included with an 8-port chip installed on the Edge base. On the IP side, both copper and fiber are catered for. And due to the amount of IP traffic these units will be encountering, 2 ports of each have been included. These ports can provide up to 4 ports of individual IP traffic separation. Now looking at the Arcadia, over and above what's already offered on the Edge base, the Arcadia has an upgraded capacity of 32 belt packs and 16 IP transceivers, all of which, like before, could be mixed. The Arcadia also has the 64-port Dante card installed. And Clearcom have upped the set capacity for up to 100 channels and 100 groups. The takeaway here really is that the Edge base station is not expandable where the Arcadia is. So looking at the front panel, the Edge base comes with a 4-pin XLR, where the Arcadia has the 5-pin option, or has a 5-pin option. The Edge base can be used with headsets, whereas Arcadia has the option for gooseneck mics. You have a USB admin port on the front of both units, which can be used for fast registration of belt packs to upgrade the units and to pull logs. There are power indicators for redundant power supplies. And when it comes to the touchscreens, both units are exactly the same. The touchscreens allow for 4 key sets, which are flanked by 4 encoders. Each rotary encoder relates to the key set next to it. There's also a pin reset on the front of the unit, and the Arcadia has a built-in speaker, so it's a true user station. And then finally, you have the main volume control. Now to look at the rear of the unit, both are pretty much identical. They both come with an internal power supply as well as an external backup. The internal PSU is a proper PSU and not a power brick. You have active GPIOs, meaning that you can connect two-way radios into these devices. And as mentioned before, legacy formats are still supported. We have 4 2-wire ports, which are compatible with both Clearcom and RTS formats, and 8 4-wire ports. Then we move on to the E1 cluster. You'll see that there's DCT synchronization, as well as copper and fiber connections for your transceivers. And then finally, we have the LAN connections. But how does all this technology translate into current or new installations? Well, let's move back to our theater schematic and add the edge base. The edge base still maintains and grows compatibility with older legacy technology like 2-wire and 4-wire, allowing easy integration into older systems and enabling new installation to take advantage of older proven technologies that still work great. And now that Edge offers Dante integration, we can start taking advantage of the many Dante-enabled devices on Audinate's ever-growing manufacturers list. This means anything from audio consoles, speakers, microphones, meters, and recording devices. AE67 adds further simplicity by allowing distribution of IP transceivers using standard COTS network switches, or that's off-the-shelf network switches. This means easier and more cost-effective deployment. Now, IPTs also allow a greater density per transceiver, up to 10 belt packs versus the 5 if you're using E1. And where would we be without integrating the two-way radio? So as you can see, the Edge base station covers this kind of solution with ease. And due to it being able to utilize conventional off-the-shelf networking equipment, it also lowers the overall installation cost. Now, some of you may have noticed that I made no mention of the Edge base's ability to transmit 5G or 5 gigahertz, I shouldn't say 5G, 5 gigahertz in the last slide. Well, this was by design. Since the 5 gigahertz frequency spectrum would not be the ideal frequency to use in a theater setting. So I decided to highlight where 5 gigahertz would be useful. And that's in a arena setting where the edge belt packs utilize the reflections of the interior of the building to help propagate the signal. A 2-wire Partyline channel is employed for static positions or announcing. We still use FreeSpeak 2 1.9 gigahertz belt packs in the studio to provide communication for any broadcast needs prior, during, or after the game. And we use Dante in the control room to provide program audio. And finally, we can see how the Arcadia integrates into our performance center, where it replaces both the HelixNet main station and the FreeSpeak 2 base station. So if we walk through the drawing, as with all the other solutions, Arcadia still has the ability to use both 2-wire and 4-wire. Here we are using 2-wire to create a bridge to two-way radios via the TW47. Next, we link the Arcadia via Cat5 to the HelixNet network. This now enables an intelligent link between FreeSpeak and HelixNet. Previously, the best way to do this was via 4-wire, so this is a welcomed addition. Next, we use FreeSpeak E1 to create a wireless network that covers both the recital hall and the main stage. This could also be done using the IP transceivers, which could simplify the solution and add a greater density per transceiver. And since the Arcadia includes up to 64 channels of Dante, we can now use this protocol to connect intelligently with other Dante-enabled devices. And finally, we look at the HelixNet network. As with the earlier HelixNet solution, remote stations are employed, allowing each director access to 4 independent channels of 4 channels of full control over the relevant areas. In this drawing, Arcadia has managed to cover the intercom requirements for a performance center. It maintains the ability to connect with established legacy technologies like TwoWire and FourWire, as well as enable newer technologies like Dante and AE67, all the while bridging two very popular Clearcom products, namely FreeSpeak and HelixNet. And this is all from a 1U device. I mentioned this before, but for me, this drawing highlights the attention to detail Clearcom have taken to provide access to older legacy formats, all the while still innovating and looking forward. This is no easy feat, and having managed many brands in the past, ditching older technology in favor for the new is not uncommon. The fact that you could add Clearcom's oldest device to this workflow and for it to still work is a massive achievement in my eyes. So in closing, since the introduction of the first analog intercom systems 50 years ago, it would be easy to think that the use of broadcast and live performance intercoms has reached an evolutionary apex. The development of point-to-point or matrix intercoms, HelixNet, and the more recent transition into digital wireless systems has already had a profound effect on workflows, enabling even more complex productions. But I think it's with the age of IP that we are really going to realize the full potential of what the computer age has to offer, and that is true democratization of audio architecture and infrastructure. We are no longer bound by cables, point-to-point connections, or physical hardware conversions, and these solutions can expand and contract in size depending on the size of your productions. This all offers an unparalleled flexibility, efficiency, and cost reduction. And while I don't doubt that this technology will take a while to feed into theater intercom solution design, it's just a matter of time before it is fully embraced. Thank you. And this is just a reminder, I was asked by ABTT. The ABTT Theatre Show and the Plaza Show will be running together from the 5th till the 7th of September at the Olympia, London. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. I don't know if everyone just takes a breath. There's a lot of information there. There's an awful lot of information there. But in essence, if I suspect there's various different peoples in our audience. If you're a little bit like me, I feel like the only lampy in the room, maybe. I didn't quite follow it all. But in essence, I think that we've learned that there is such a huge hasn't comms progressed? Do you know what I mean? Since, the last, I was the chief electrician at Wimbledon for, I don't know, about 9 years. And obviously that is really, really exciting how it's developed in that sense. B is very complicated, but isn't it great that we've got like Tyrell and Clearcom and they're here to help us with this. We're not supposed to be experts in this area. So those diagrams, actually, if you start to get into them, were really, really, really interesting. But of course, they were quite small, so maybe you could have a little look back at them. I think for me, before we've got a couple of questions, there's a couple of key points there for me. The first one was, absolutely agree with you, Ian. It's as you started to add to the diagram, you always started with that base. Old school system that we totally all know and love, and then you started to add all this other really interesting stuff that came along, and I think that's really exciting that the Clearcom brand is allowing the old and the new to integrate, especially for theatre that perhaps doesn't have the budget to start stripping things out and starting again. I think I would quite like to know, mainly because if we start to go into the West End and regional venues, those systems are all integrated. Is there any way, could you talk us more about this audio over IP thing and what applications perhaps you've used it in? Have you done any installations, and where could you see theatre using that? Because there seems to be a huge versatility in what can be achieved in that that kind of audio over IP and mobile phones and stuff, and just computers. I mean, I've just got visions of front of house have always wanted a feed, haven't they? And it's always been such a ball ache to achieve that, and so to me that springs to mind immediately that I could just chuck the general manager in the front of house officer a line. Is it as simple as that? Am I being naive?
John will have a better knowledge of what installs Clearcom have done. So I can tell you straight off the bat that there are far more ARP installs in Broadway in the US than there are in the UK. But John can go into that a bit.
Yeah, I mean, actual installs, as you say, in the States are taking over the UK at the moment. We're still tending to be using traditional TwoWire or HelixNet or wireless, but your idea of using Agent IC on a mobile phone is certainly valid for front of house and probably other sort of non-key users. Certainly a low-cost way of getting a belt pack to a person that would normally be a several $100,000, $1,000 unit. They can use their own phone. It also has helped us a huge amount with working from home. So if you're anyone that has seen any productions of anything working from home, we've been using a lot of our IP products and station IC and agent IC and IP panels, hardware panels, working from home, which may be relevant in the future.
That's really fascinating, John. Is that like, well, we've done, so a lot of designers have actually been literally working at home, haven't they? So have you used it in that application of
it's more to do with broadcast applications. So if they were actually broadcasting the theatre, like the Royal Opera House, for example, they actually have a broadcast facility as well as the theatre. And if they were broadcasting a theatre performance, all their broadcast operatives wouldn't have to come into the theatre. They could do it from home. And there was various different events. I think there was a cat show in America that was done mostly broadcast from home, for example, which is, getting away from the theatre idea. The main idea with the theatre and IP, I think, is probably going to be Dante audio, as you start using that for speakers and microphones. And as you saw, we can incorporate Dante straight into the new Arcadia and FreeSpeak base, FreeSpeak Edge base. So that means your Wi-Fi, your wireless Wi-Fi, your connections can go straight to the Dante system to and from the sound desk. And as you see that evolve into the bigger theatres, that will become more and more important.
And I was discussing with some clients, Dante will also come into sort of a compliance recording type of idea where you could now use Dante to record, the comms, what was actually happening on the comms during a particular production and that kind of stuff. So that's where I would see Dante getting some feet in the theater environment. Dante in live eventing and broadcast has been used for ages. It's a very popular format, but we're only starting to see it being used now in intercom. So.
Yeah, and I take it as Clearcom got this commitment then to making sure that the old and the new are supported in that sense, because that I really got a sense of that, because mainly because the diagram always started with what I knew, and then you started adding stuff to it, which is quite exciting.
The old TwoWire, yeah. Encore, which is our TwoWire ring product, is still huge. Has a huge market, a lot of applications. And we very much still support it and supply it everywhere in the world. And as Ian has shown you, you can easily connect a TwoWire belt pack into an LQ box and put it straight onto your network. So if you really don't want to rewire your theatre with audio cables and you have a network cable, you could actually have different areas covered by TwoWire belt pack rings using the Encore basic equipment over LQ. It also concentrates into our matrices, which we didn't cover today because matrices are a little bit out of the theatre world, but we have large matrices that again can concentrate all the different endpoints. So your belt packs can connect direct to it, your station and agent IC can connect to it, panels can connect to it. So it's TwoWire and keeping the legacy products connected. And you mentioned the HelixNet. HelixNet is a big system. Multi-channel TwoWire ring, if you like, but on digits instead of analog. You can use it on XLR3 or a network or a mixture. So again, you can stick it on your existing network, and that will integrate into the new products in the future. So yes, it's very important to us that we keep supporting our existing users and our existing products with the new designs.
And something also that I'd like to mention is over the decades, TwoWire has been very prominent in a lot of different markets, not just theatre. And Clearcom have always innovated on the sound quality of that. So every new iteration of product that they release, the quality, the audio quality of that TwoWire always gets better. So there's always innovation happening, even with the legacy products. I mean, they don't have to do it. It doesn't have to happen. The products are already working. They've already been sold. They've already been, you know, they're already they're already part of the brick, literally. So, you know, the fact that they're doing that, that they're constantly trying to get better results, I love that. I love the fact that you've got a brand that embraces that older technology. I mean, I've been on the receiving end of selling technology to clients only for 5 years later it to be ditched in favor of something new. And, you know, there's certain cost implications to that. So I just love that about Clearcom. It's just that constant innovation, but keeping that the thought on legacy is great.
Cool. So we've got a few questions. There's some technical ones which I'm just gonna skip to. There's a really good question here, which is, can you offer a site survey to decide what the best choice of wireless is for a venue? You sound like obviously you know 10 times more than all of us. I'm sure that's possible. Is that possible?
It also says Dan wants to answer that question.
Oh, Dan. Okay, cool.
You can open your mic if you like, Dan. I mean, definitely Clearcom and or Tyrell can offer a physical site survey, and the product is now designed to have site survey features built into it. So you can actually go in with virtually just a belt pack, just an Edge belt pack, for example, or a FreeSpeak 2 belt pack. And you can do a site survey that gives you all the different channels that are being used and the channel density and which channels you can use, which also answers Rolf's question, really, frequency planning. You know, the venue itself can provide the frequency overview of what they're using. So if they already know they're using channels, that's really useful, because then we would work to avoid the frequencies they are using. And this is all to do with Edge being more of a managed solution on the frequency management rather than FreeSpeak 2, which is decked, which just work 1.9 and away it goes. So yes, we would definitely be able to do a plan or a frequency test on that. That was 2 of the questions.
Yep. Then we have this is more Arcadia specific. Will the Arcadia in the future support iris panels? I've actually had that discussion with you before, John. You can answer that one.
Yeah, the iris panels are our hardware panels that you probably saw in Ian's presentation, which are normally 1 or 2U with a number of lever keys. They're more used, they would be used at the side of the stage by the main operator of the theatre, for example, to have multiple routes from his panel, probably on a matrix. So currently they work with our Eclipse matrix range. It would be very sensible to make it work with the Arcadia. How's that? Political answer. Yes, it would be very, very sensible to make it work with Arcadia in the future.
And regarding frequency planning, do you expect the venue to provide the frequency overview?
Well, as I said just now, Ian, yes. I mean, if they can give us an overview, and this really only relates to the 5 GHz Edge product. If they can give us an overview of the frequencies they are using in that range, that would be great. But our products can actually give you the frequency scanning as well. So you can go in with a belt pack and you can actually do the scan of the venue during a production or after a production or whatever you like. And that actually gives you the frequencies to use or not to use.
Cool. Can I just ask, are you doing any current UK installs at the moment?
Yes. Well, we don't do it personally. We obviously have integrators and resellers. Well, we have resellers. The resellers will have integrators that will do that. But yes, there's quite a few large installations that will be going on in the next couple of weeks. I'm not really at liberty to say who, but yes, the answer is yes. Some very big systems, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, Europe-wise, we're very much catching up on systems that were sold sort of pre-COVID. So the applications engineers, so we have a team of applications engineers based in Cambridge that go out generally to support the systems integrators, as Ian said, or our own distributors, whether it's in UK or abroad, that that actually do the installation. So the AEs now are getting very busy again now that travel is more open, and working on the installations that we're catching up.
I'm quite interested actually, like I think for me the big eye opener as a 40-year-old woman, I was completely captivated by the notion of the LQ system, and when you started mentioning mobile phones and stuff, I just went, wow, it's really become less clunky. Do you know what I mean? Like I haven't got to have like hundreds of these bot pack things knocking around, that there are different ways of working with it.
Well, look, there's positives and negatives to having a sort of a mobile phone as a device. So, you know, when you're using a belt pack, there's a certain tactility to it because you've got buttons, whereas mobile phones don't have that kind of thing. So while you have access to that kind of technology, it doesn't mean that that technology always translates well in that particular environment. What I wanted to do with that drawing is really highlight what could be achieved. Not really what should be achieved, but what could be achieved. And the fact that, you know, we could, in essence, really provide a complete network using LQ and audio over IP without even flinching. But ultimately, I think the solution will always be a mixture or a blend of everything. And that's really the way, I think, especially with theatre, it will be moving forward.
In a fixed venue, you would argue that actually having something sort of pre-installed and having that tactile piece of hardware that you engage with as a comm system is really exciting. But of course, especially over this COVID period and stuff, where we've had to come up with just brand new ways of working, you know. So, I mean, we couldn't be indoors for a long time. So, of course, there was lots of innovation in pop-up theatre shows outdoors and stuff. So I'm just thinking quite a lot of integration in having a comms communication system that could just appear out of nowhere if you don't have an infrastructure.
It's that scalability that I love. The fact that you can just grow and you know, make smaller, you know, grow and, well, expand and retract at will. That's really the great flexibility about AOP over other technologies where you have to go along and invest in a certain amount of belt packs. You've got a system, and you know, when you've got something like COVID, where it's knocked out your ability to actually use that equipment just becomes a dead weight. You know, it's something on the shelf that's actually costing you a lot of money, and you're not using it at all. And that's what I love about the ARP type of flexibility is, if it doesn't cost, if you're not using it, you don't need to pay for it.
Absolutely.
You know? I mean, it's just a matter of walking away and saying, okay, till we need it next time.
I've got another question actually, and that's probably linked to like if you do like live events or something, or like the dry hire nature of dry hiring a comm system, which of course you can do. You can get the base station and whatever else, however many headsets you need. Is there a market, or will there be a future market, do you think, for this audio over IP, like dry hiring, that kind of off-the-shelf system that you could take to use on your temporary gig or whatever?
Well, if you're talking about LQ, you can take the LQ and license it for up to 8 users with the Agent RC, and those 8 users can be deployed onto your phones. The actual application you put on the phone is a free download, so you can get a free download on as many phones as you want, but you can only actually connect that certain number to the LQ box. You can download that app now and try it with a system that we have in Canada and actually talk and listen to somebody in Canada, for example. The other way of doing it is basic, very, very basic. Ian showed you the DX system. There is a battery powered DX wireless base station, which is 2.4 gig and little tiny belt packs, and you can throw that in a field and use it. But you can also connect that to the LQ and uplink your little DX system in a field, which is battery powered, and the LQ can be 12 volt powered, and send that back over IP via a hotspot, a Wi-Fi hotspot or something, or a dongle to your main system, your main production system, or your OB truck. So there's all sorts of ways of using the little bits at the end to add to a system. Putting your intercom application on your phone, we've got customers that have used ruggedized phones and they're only used for an intercom, and they have like 2 slide buttons from the Agent IC, and those 2 buttons can be pushed. One can be listening to the program, one can be talking, and then you put the whole phone in your pocket. So you're not actually even, it's like a belt pack then, you're not actually even using the buttons, you're not getting into the complexity of dialing or anything like that. You've just got the audio being fed to you on your phone and you're talking back to the other end. So it can be really simple, or you can have 20 buttons on that panel talking to 20 different people.
And when you're looking at
to use it.
Yeah, and when you're looking at something like Station RC, I mean, you can rent that by the week.
Yeah.
So really, if you've got a production that's only going to last 8 weeks, there we go, you sorted. And then
are there hire companies out there that have these systems available to hire?
You know, it's
not really what we're here to discuss, but I just wondered if, as you're so you guys sell it, I just wondered if you'd known of any hire companies that.
Look, I mean, it's yeah, I don't know where the equipment goes. Once it goes into the reseller network, it goes to where it goes. But yeah, I mean, I did a plan or a diagram for a client that needed a completely remote workflow solution where they didn't have access to any electricity, they didn't have access to anything. And obviously the LQ and Agent RC came into play there, and they had to link to somebody in the States. So they had somebody that they would be interviewing in the States, and they would be, you know, they would have the interviewer in Ireland and the interviewee in the States. And the only way to connect them was via Agent RC. So, you know, the flexibility is actually incredible. And it's just really, you know, it's just how far you're willing to stretch your mind as to, you know, what you can actually do with it.
Yeah, and I think the key to this, and I'm just looking in the chat now, and I suspect that we've got like an audience that is made up of people that perhaps really do know a lot about audio and all of these different interfaces, and they're very, very clever. And perhaps people are a little bit like me, who are a little bit just more like, yeah, I integrate, I deal with comms because that's, you know, I put them in, I put whatever system that I've got in, but actually perhaps I don't know as much about the science behind it in that sense. But I think it's really important to know that actually there are resources and stuff available to, you know, so absolutely, if you're wanting to upgrade a system, you're not expected to know it all, are you? That's why there are people like you in the world that we can phone, and the phone a friend aspect of it, to just go, what do you think the best? Because there's no point in putting some fancy thing in if actually you just need that standard thing. But it's whether that supplementary system can help you in some way.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got a secondary studio, or again, you want a cost-effective way of running, rather than running this fancy hardware line. I'm just thinking of a couple of applications where I think that would be really useful for me, that would just mean that I didn't have to spend hours and days potentially running hardware in. That makes
the FreeSpeak 2 type stuff though that we mentioned, the FreeSpeak 2 1.9 is very much plug and play. So the rental market currently has mostly FreeSpeak 1.9 and probably HelixNet as their core solutions, and these new things like LQ and so on and so forth will be additional peripherals to that, which will make it very, very easy to install.
Yep.
Actually, in the chat, someone has just said that they're starting their first Edge installation tomorrow at the National Theatre in Oslo, in Norway.
Yeah,
that was quick. That was released maybe last month, I think.
Yeah, so thanks for sharing that. It's very awkward. I mean, obviously we can't really discuss all of the different things that are going on, because of course that's their business to decide whether they're going to divulge it or not. But I think it is quite interesting to, and for me, I think it sort of stands to reason that and it's enlightening to know that Broadway are doing it. So I think it's probably inevitable that there's going to become an application in this country where we catch up with them in that sense. So we don't have any more questions, but I mean, I'm pretty good at I'll just, you know, chat away ultimately. Please do, even if you think it's a really silly question, just do pop it in there. If you've got any questions, we've spent a bit of time talking about you know, audio over IP, which is quite fancy. But if you've just got any questions about just, you know, your standard 2-wire system, please, this is the best forum in order to do it. So do please feel free to ask some questions or share anything that you've got to share on the chat. I think for me, I'm as a teacher, I'll tell you what I really want to do now. I kind of want to get that system, and you know, you were saying about like listening in to
actually play with it.
I think it's really fun. Like I just, as a teacher, like we would just go into a studio and just have a play with it. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's really exciting, and I think it would be a really a cool application to do with the younger generation.
Ask Dan to pop up the Agent RC demo. Is that that is on the website? Is it not, John?
The demo.
The Agent RC link.
The Agent RC link. Yeah, I mean well, it depends whether you're on Play Store, on Android, or whichever.
Yeah. So basically, you can just download that amp, and you can check it from that side.
Yeah, it's a free demo, so you can just talk. You can actually talk to each other for at least half an hour before it says you need to start again. So you could actually use it to try it and prove to yourself that it works on the phone. Station IC is a brand new solution, really. So that's coming out on the PC and your Mac machines. That's more of a rollout. We haven't quite got the free demos yet. There you go. There's a Station IC link. Yeah.
I've got Gareth is our sound tutor as well, so I'm already hatching a plan to have a little studio session where we sit and play with it. So it sounds like loads of fun. But there's the link there. There's a couple of links going in there if you fancy having a little play with it. So are you guys going to be at the Plaza and the ABTT show next week?
I'm not. I'm currently in Ireland, so I'll be staying here, unfortunately. Not too sure about John. I think John will be at Plaza. Physically,
we're going to visit the show. Unfortunately, we haven't got a booth or a stand, but we will be visiting the show. And you can get in touch with me anyway through all the different ways. I don't know whether we haven't got a slide of my contact details, but Ian's the main contact there to get hold of us, and we very much work together. We'll definitely be visiting the show.
Yeah, and we also have two resellers there, both SSE and Autograph will be there to chat about any of the Clearcom products.
Cool. Okay. So, John, I think we'll. Well, I'm assuming they can just go to the website to get your contact information. So
John.sparrow@clearcom.com.
Yeah, and Dan, are you going to be there? I see. No, he's not talking. Are you talking, Dan?
He's very shy.
I am shy. To be determined just yet, based on my son may have COVID.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, to be found out.
You're going to be locked down in your log cabin for a while.
It's a hard life for me.
Yeah. So John,
thank you to Reading Festival.
Yeah. So John, and there you go. I thought somebody might have. There you go. Somebody's popped the contact details on there. So although Clearcom, they don't have a stand there, John will be there. So if anybody wanted to pop an email to him and arrange a time to meet, there's a different vibe to the show this year, very much networking based, because we're all so excited to see one another. So I'm sure if you sent John an email, then he could probably arrange a time and a space. There's going to be lots of places for you to sort of perch and chat. So if you did want to talk any further about it as well, and obviously we don't know whether Dan and Tyrell will be there or not, but again, if they are, I'm sure, listen, everyone's at the end of an email, aren't they, if you wanted to shout or talk about anything. I don't actually have any more questions. We've got 15 minutes left, but I don't know if there's anything in particular you just wanted to wrap up with, anything that you wanted to highlight, or
I think we're good.
No, yeah, it's a great presentation.
Yeah,
worked really well.
Absolutely stunning. And
I apologize if it was a lot of information, but it is just a lot of information. It's the nature of it. So for those that have questions, they're welcome to contact me directly. But you can watch it over and over and over. You can slow it down if you really need to. And I will be providing the actual presentation for download. So that will be on the ABTT website.
Yeah, so in essence, you can watch the this whole entire presentation again and skip through my sections and, you know, whatever else. Or what Ian is saying is that the slides themselves, what he's going to do is go away and lose some of that animation for you, but have the generic slides for you. And again, you can just sort of dissect it, because I'm quite lucky. I got sent it prior, so I got a chance to. I actually had it up whilst Ian was talking, and I went back and went, oh, okay, cool. Do you know what I mean? And because that's probably because I'm a teacher. But when you do go back, having listened to it, I do think that it does make a little bit more sense. But there is quite a lot going on there. But in essence, I think you really got a clear message across. And even if some of the science was a bit beyond you, we don't need to understand all of the science. That's why we have specialists in that area anyway.
Yep.
So
and like you said, we're just a phone call away or an email away. So
absolutely. But I think the key to it is, I think definitely what I've learned about it is that we just take comms for granted, really. I know that when I was in my venue, the comm system slowly started to collapse week after week. We were just gently nursing it back together, and it just took a complete collapse for us to actually realise that we needed to give it some attention. So if you haven't thought about your comm system for a little while, maybe this will inspire you to go back and perhaps have a little think about what you've got, and if you've got hums and hisses, and perhaps having a little think about it. Don't leave it as long as I left it in my venue until we had some catastrophic show communication failure thing going on. So and the great thing about it is there's so much more versatility than there was in the years when I was in a venue. So there's lots and lots of information. Alicia will post this on the ABTT website. I'm sure Dan will have it on the TwoWire website. Honestly, it's always a real pleasure to host these things and to meet you. And it's 3 more people on my phone a friend list, basically, as far as I can tell. So and thank you so much for coming along. Again, the recorded will be there for those people that perhaps couldn't make it. You can share links to it, and I'm sure Alicia will post all of this on social media. So I really, really sincerely hope that I see some of you at the show Sunday, Monday, Tuesday next week. But we will continue to do seminars in this way, because of course it's a fabulous way of sharing resources, and especially for people that aren't London based, you know, more regionally based, sharing it and getting it more diversely. But thank you very much, Ian. That was really, really cool. Dan and John, thank you so much. And Alicia, thank you so much for all your hard work in the background. And we'll hope to see you at the joint ABTT and Plaza show from Sunday. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, come find me, come talk to me. I'm so excited to not see people in a Zoom box.
Thank
have
you.
a really lovely Friday and weekend. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.